Live. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now joining me as usual, Aaron William Freeland. Aaron, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great. How about you, Frank?
Just trying to get my stuff together here, and my screen. We just had Eduardo made a contribution, and it was like okay, it was a good contribution, but my gosh, it's way too much information. The world's greatest in everything. It's like it's like reading the Guinness Book of Records, right? It gets tiring after a while, but regardless of that, it's been an interesting day, and my top story, and in my mind the top story today has to be the passing of Betty White, a few almost days away from being 100.
Yeah, 18 days until her 100th birthday, and according to reports, she passed away this morning peacefully at her home.
They didn't give any, just old age.
I mean, well, once you get to be almost 100, eventually that sort of thing is going to happen. So I'm gathering that her family would like for the press to respect her privacy in the meantime. So, I get it. It's unfortunate. Rest in peace, Betty. You'll be missed.
Absolutely. No, for me, it's not a question of wanting to know. It's just nice. It's nice that she died naturally without any help. That's what it sounds like. I wish she could have lasted at least another 18 more days. I mean, I had a thing for her. I have to admit, I had a thing for her. I'm sorry to admit, and sorry because
when she was younger, she was very pretty. So it's entirely understandable.
She's always been pretty to me. She's always been one of the most exciting women I've ever known. I mean, she's as disarming as she was. It's even hard to say that she was one of the most disarming people I know, and for people like you and I that like and love animals, or both, she was a very conscientious animal lover.
Indeed, and it shone through in a lot of the work that she did.
Yeah,
none more so than her movie in the early 90s called Lake Placid, where she was responsible for feeding a gigantic beast that was terrorizing a local mountain community.
She was, yes, she, I don't know if we could scour the world and find a person that didn't like her. You know what I mean? Like who doesn't like Betty White?
You'd be hard put.
I think so too. So I can tell you honestly, I already miss her. I was looking forward to seeing her again. She would pop up every so often, not just in TV shows, just like on late night shows, and do little things, and I keep getting reminded of why I liked her so much. She had one heck of a personality, and her character, her feminine character that she carried from the beginning. She was way ahead of her time. With her attitude.
Very much so.
I don't give a rat's ass what you think. Take it or leave it. That was, she was a flag bearer for the women of today, I think, in her own way.
Very much so.
In other news, this news not so good. Ontario is further slashing capacity limits at large indoor settings as it ramps up its fight against the Rona.
Yeah, so news came down recently that as of today, Ontario will be limiting capacity to 50% or 1,000 people, whichever is less as of today. So that means that Raptors games, 1,000 people, Leafs games, 1,000 people, Marlies games, 1,000 people. The good news is that they've spared us all the trouble of wondering whether or not our tickets are still valid and who gets in just by simply saying nobody's watching the games. So word has come down the pipe that the Maple Leafs and the Marlies and the Raptors will be going no fans in the stands.
It's not that they're not using the 1,000 available opportunities for people to be in the rink. They'll just be people that have to do with the team, families, and such.
Exactly. It'll be game day operations,
That kind of
facilities
stuff.
management, custodial, security, and potentially friends and family. But that's about it. I mean, the opportunity is there to have up to 1,000, but that doesn't necessarily mean they have to.
Yeah, I wonder if it also includes media. Well, we'll find out. We'll definitely find out. Yeah, so that's on this again. Top story: Slovak goalie junior team calls the way the World Junior Championship was handled was a joke. He of Slovakia, a country that has, I think it's 50. Where did I see? Yeah, 55.7% a vaccination rate in their country. Um,
It's just it's one of those things where I mean
Bitterness,
he came
the
here and tried to
bitterness.
do his best, you know, and despite the fact that the vaccination rates in his home country are so low, it definitely could have been handled much better by the IIHF. This is something that
It,
they get to wear.
it, yeah, like we said in the last show, and I stick to it. There should be, unfortunately with COVID and with the way we're living today, it's such a fluid experience. How you plan to prepare can be the best preparation possible, but then things change. As happened with the Omicron. And as you know, you and I have been covering this for a long time, and now what we're hearing is, like I suggested last week, that this might be a blessing in disguise, because the it's all relative, right? We have to realize everything isn't black and white, so it's relative. So when I say that it's not as dangerous as the previous variants, it does mean that most people are infected, and if they because it's not so severe, there's a great chance of antibodies being created, and they're finding out that that's the case, and that's what's happening. So that might explain why in Africa there was a giant spike and then immediately it fell. I'm not a doctor, but I'm just saying that if we follow the same trend that South Africa did, given the middle of January towards the end of January, the spike is going to turn into a big drop in infection rates, and hopefully, we can get another chance of being as safe as we can, and don't assume that it's gone away forever. It's here, and it's going to be here. Winter is the peak time for these kinds of things. I mean, you have an opinion on what I just said? You want to
No,
help?
I mean at this rate, the word that has been the idea, sorry, that's been passed around is that it could potentially be a summer tournament. We're talking sometime after the Memorial Cup or after the NHL season is over. This is one of the potential solutions that they're looking at for this. I do kind of agree with the goalie. It was a bit of a joke. It wasn't, it's not compared to the way that it was run last year. Apparently, this hotel was still open to the public. There was a packed restaurant. There was a packed bar. There was even a wedding that suffered a COVID outbreak. None of them were isolating. Last year when they did it, the employees actually stayed at the hotel with the players. Nobody went home for the full 2 weeks of the tournament. This year is just like, can't be bothered. So.
But it was a direct reflection of the way we were trending at the time that they organized this.
Oh,
And then
very much so.
and then what happens is, now you organize it based on the knowledge that you have. And then after you arrange everything, set everything up, and then you drop everybody at the arena or at the hotels, all of a sudden things change. And now you're trying to play catch up with something that you don't know, and you don't want to assume is going to turn into what it did. That's the problem. Nobody wanted to assume it was going to turn into what it did, and that is, it became a nightmare everywhere. We saw actually in real time how it affected the National Hockey League. It's not just a question of the juniors; it's the National Hockey League too. Well, they weren't prepared. Well, it's not
Oh,
so much about being prepared; it's about knowing what you're up against.
It's a question of adaptability. I mean, it was the same situation in the shortened season that they had when a couple teams went down. All of a sudden,
Agreed.
they're scrambling to reschedule games. They're,
Agreed, but in this case, the rapidity of the viral infections, the way they repeated so quickly and spread so quickly, it was like trying to turn a cruise ship around. It just momentum is a big thing, not only to stop, slow down, and control, but to get it going too. Momentum takes a lot to build up, especially in something as protracted as, you know, protecting a group of people from COVID. That's a given in my mind. But I hear you. Like I said, I agree with what you're saying. Valid points. Um, the other thing to me is I'm starting to get to the point where, in my mind, I think testing um, is difficult at best because nobody has enough tests to, do the testing. We don't have enough testing for everybody. So, having said that, I think we should start concentrating on making sure the people who are highly um, uh, they have a lot to do with a lot of people all the time. They need to be tested. We need to make sure they get the tests. The high transmissibility rate is relevant if you are among a huge amount of people, right? So, the testing to me, Aaron, I've said for the last few shows, and I'm starting to get to the point where, for me, what's more important is that we protect ourselves against the virus. I think we should, we should redouble our efforts to make sure everybody else gets vaccinated. A and B, we should make sure the people who are, with immunocompromised or older people, we need to, taking the junior experience to heart, figure out a way to make sure we protect them because of the high transmissibility of this virus or this strain or this variant.
Now, it is also very important to note that while positive COVID cases are way up, hospitalizations in ICU use isn't spiking as it was with previous variants.
Well, it's such a small percentage of people, because the difference between before and now and a lot of what happened with the juniors is the advent of immunization has given us a false sense, well, as we learned, a false sense of security in as far as transmissibility is concerned. But the truth is, and the good news is that you don't get as sick. Heck, very few who are vaccinated die, and therefore the thing that we've always talked about, and the thing I believe most, is what we have to protect, and the gauge we need to always be 100% paying attention to. Not that we're not asking people not pay attention to testing, but is the hospital situation, and how normal is the hospital functioning? Is it functioning normally? So as long as that's the case, that's fine. But what we read in the news a couple of days ago was that Manitoba does not want to go back to what they did previously, which is with that to import nurses and export people with COVID. That's what we're trying to avoid. So it's not easy.
No, it's definitely not. But if we stay the course, we can get through this.
Yeah, just, if you don't have to hang out with lots of people, don't hang out with lots of people. If you're going to have to give up the big Happy New Year party for this year, and anytime it's a bad idea, which it is, we both, I think, we can agree and advise people to, try not to be in big groups of people when we're talking about a high transmissibility rate. The Omicron variant is highly transmissible, so don't be around a lot of people. Decrease the odds of something happening to us. It's just common sense. I know it's hard. I know it's hard not to be able to go and do what you want to do when you want to do it, with whom and how many. I know it's hard. I know, Aaron, you yourself, you'd love to be in the middle of a packed arena, having your beer, looking up at the score clock at yourself drinking beer. I mean, those moments are to live for, and not to be able to do it. I know it's hard.
It is, but you know what? And I find I'm actually having less trouble with this than some other folk are. There are some people who are having a really tough go of this. Their favorite sports team has moved. They can't go to games. When so much of your personality gets wrapped up in being that sports guy, it's very difficult to separate yourself from it. And I feel for those individuals. I really do. Myself, I'm just going to treat this current break, which is scheduled to go on for at least 3 weeks, according to the Maple Leafs and Marlies. I'm just going to treat this like their Royal Agricultural Winters Fair tour. That road trip they do every October. This is just a new version of it for me. So it's a time to rest up, make sure the liver's in good shape, save a little money for when it comes back, and then bang the boards when the games are back on again.
That's why the Marlies play in the Cow Palace.
Exactly.
Right. I think you have to be of a certain age to know that, or you have to remember being in school when, all those trips to the Royal Winter Fair in Toronto. So, good news, I guess, or fun news. The Canadian Football League, Jeff Reinbold, has the coach of the Ticats, special teams coach, has decided not to renew with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Mahalo to him. Offensive lineman Shane Richards signs with the Argos, a key player.
Yeah, this is something that I was really gratified to see. Now he played all 14 games for the Argos this season. Dude is 6'8", 325, and he was the first overall selection in 2019. I'm glad he's back. He brings a really big presence to their line, which we definitely need up front.
The Mayor of Calgary signs with the Calgary Stampeders, Jake Meyer.
This was good to see. It's good to have him back in the league again for at least another season. So we'll have to see how that works out for Calgary.
Well, with what happened with Bo Levi Mitchell, I think the experience that he gathered last year is going to come in handy this year, and it's going to be interesting to see because finances are what finances are. The cap is what the cap is.
And you got to find a way to work around it somehow, especially when the cap applies to coaches and management too.
It has always been said that every player that's signed immediately after, GMs everywhere are trying to replace them. And that's the story in the Canadian Football League. The Maple Leafs are happy to get back to hockey. I mean, they're going to actually get to play a game, apparently. Maybe Ottawa. Maybe.
Potentially tomorrow on New Year's Day. That is still on their schedule. In the meantime, however, their game on January 3rd versus the Canes has been postponed, as well as their game on the 6th against the Habs. Now, the league actually postponed another 8 games today on top of the 9 games that they postponed yesterday. But the good news is none of the new postponements have to do with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, but a lot of them have to do with Canadian teams, and the league is frowning upon the provincial governments across the country that are limiting the amount of fans that can be in the stands. Essentially, what it is even though the National Hockey League doesn't rely on attendance as much as some other leagues, it does rely on attendance, especially if you're the Maple Leafs and you're charging upwards of $300 for a ticket.
Yeah. And the other thing to consider as well is how good it looks on television. And because of those new $1 billion deals that they've got going, the urge is there to make sure that the stands are full.
Absolutely.
So might I recommend cardboard cutouts?
We did that already. Been there, done that. The Montreal Canadiens. Tell us about the game against Carolina, the team that the Leafs lost a game against.
Well, finally in a return to play after a long time, Antti Raanta and Teuvo Teravainen actually had a chance to help the Hurricanes. They blanked the Habs 4-0. So Antti Raanta had a great night. He had 26 saves, which was great. Teuvo Teravainen, had 2 goals. Really the story here was special teams. Now, the bad news is this is nowhere near the bottom for the Habs. They are 1-7-2 in their last 10, and goalie Sam Montembeault unfortunately had very little defensive support. They ain't hit bottom yet, and it'd be interesting to see how much longer Dominic Ducharme lasts. I know that he was brought in on an interim basis, but coaches are hired to be fired, and I think his best before date has already passed.
Yep. The Montreal Canadiens feast to famine for flocks' sakes. Boucher,
well played,
tell us
sir.
about that kid. Tell us about this kid signing with the Senators.
This was a tough call for Boucher. He's been having a relatively good go of it at Boston College. He recently signed a 3-year contract with the Ottawa Senators and actually is going to be leaving Boston University to play with the OHL's Ottawa 67s. Now, he was picked 10th overall in the 2021 draft, and it was in his first year at BU. This is why it was a hard decision for him, because it's, do you continue your education at Boston University, or do you pursue the bright lights and the lucrative possibilities in the NHL? So he is a product of the U.S. Hockey National Team Development Program. He was looking forward to playing with the BU Terriers, but decided that in 17 games, he only had 3 points, 2 goals, and 1 assist, and a team-leading 34 penalty minutes. So the potential to play with the 67s and change things up a little bit, just a little change of venue, he felt might have been something that would help him.
And you'll be closer to the team that owns his rights.
Exactly.
If you're Perfetti, a great young Canadian hockey player, was doing well in the junior World Championship, he got handed a little early birthday present.
Oh, I missed this one, Frank. What did he get?
He got handed an early birthday gift. He's got a spot on the Jets taxi squad.
Oh, perfect. He won't be doing a lot of riding around, though. Unfortunately, the Jets games for today, the 8th and the 10th, have all been postponed due to attendance restrictions. So it looks like he might actually make his debut in the States.
And so he'll be fired. He'll be ready to go. He should have a chance to be ready to go. The Calgary Flames, Tkachuk and Gaudreau lead the team to a 6-4 win over the Kraken.
Yeah, Tkachuk actually had the go-ahead goal with 2:26 left in the third and 2 assists. It's been feast or famine for the Flames this season. It's been really difficult. This has actually been the first game since December 11th due to a COVID-19 outbreak. 20 members of the team and coach Daryl Sutter were among 33 different Calgary personnel who tested positive during those 19 days off. That Christmas pause that the NHL decided to put in place couldn't have come at a better time for them. They were rusty, not going to lie. It was a really sloppy game to watch. I'm glad I stayed up to watch it. Glad to see them win, but at the same time, it was obvious that they hadn't been doing much. So,
Tarasenko leads St. Louis Blues past the Edmonton Oilers, who continue their poor play.
This has been a really, really tough stretch for the Oilers. I know that they were hoping for a bit of a reset after the early Christmas break. Draisaitl and Bouchard scored for Edmonton. This is the first game they've had since a 5-3 win in Seattle on December 18th. This has not been fun for them for the past little while, but hopefully they'll turn the corner.
Gabby Boudreau was on a 7-game winning streak with Vancouver. It got snapped by the Kings.
It was bound to happen sooner or later. Kempe and Arvidsson scored in the shootout. Jonathan Quick made 17 saves, and LA Kings snapped Vancouver's win streak with a 2-1 win. It's, eventually all streaks have to end, unfortunately. It wasn't as potentially embarrassing as it could have been. At least they managed to get to the shootout, but at times they didn't quite look like they were all there, and they did get a little bit outplayed.
Talking about being careful as a parent, Patrick Marleau, his son, a 12-year-old, went down to get his sunglasses, which he forgot by the pool. There was a couple that was apparently looking like they were thinking of kidnapping the kid, and thank goodness for a couple of strangers who saw what was going on and intervened. Scary story. Yeah,
this is a situation you never want to hear about happening. I'm glad that there was another family from Louisiana that intervened to help him get back to his room safely. This is unfortunately a situation that crops up that doesn't get nearly as much attention. I am glad that Brody is safe. It will inspire a little more vigilance on the Marleau's parts, I think. So,
and I think everybody else, we keep getting reminded that we need to be very careful with our children, our young children.
We do.
OHL cancels 2 upcoming Windsor Spitfires games.
Yeah, it's them dang COVID protocols again. It's one of those things. They said that the game scheduled for Thursday and Friday would be postponed and rescheduled due to COVID-19 protocols affecting the Windsor Spitfires hockey clubs. Unfortunately, Windsor wasn't specific as to what that meant. Not sure if it was players held out or if it was attendance. But the team wasn't commenting at at press time, so the CBC never got an answer to their question.
I know you always love this, Aaron. Shocker! ECHL players start with punch up before first whistle.
It's one of those, the team's tough guys skate around and they're jawing at each other before the game starts, and one of them sticks his foot over the line when he's stretching, and the other player pushes it back, and next thing you know, they're throwing punches with the gloves on during warm up. There's a reason the ECHL has a reputation it does, unfortunately.
Oh, it definitely has that reputation. It definitely has that reputation. Canadian freestyle skier Brandon McKay wins World Cup halfpipe gold. We don't get much chance to talk about winter sports, but they're happening, and we have a Canadian that wins a gold. It's great news.
Oh, most definitely. It was minus 30 at the Winsport venue at the time, so
yep.
This was pretty neat. He said it was actually really cool to have a victory on his home half pipe. That's actually where he learned to ski. So a nice little bit of serendipity there.
The snow is very crunchy right now. Some people are inextricably tied to their sport. It's not enough to say that they're synonymous with the sport. Sometimes they mean everything to the sport that the sport means, and are in every corner of how you enjoy and feast on the sport. John Madden's one of those people in sports that he transcended the game, and he found himself in every corner, the game, coaching, television, on the field. He did everything. He passed away.
Yeah, it was unfortunate to hear of his passing, I believe at the age of 85. This is somebody who'd woven himself into Raiders history, into NFL on CBS history, even into the video gaming world. So even kids today won't necessarily remember him playing or remember hearing him on TV, but they'll hear his voice on the video games. And
absolutely,
it's one of those long-standing legacies that can never be taken away.
And the NFL, to show you how respected he is, the NFL has asked all the NFL home teams to do a moment of silence for John Madden.
Yeah, it's one of those universal gestures that you don't expect, but is always really nice to see.
A change of heart. Wizard star Brandley Beal credits his family, not the mandate, for finally getting COVID vaccine.
Yeah, I mean, you can only ask people to do something for so long before you finally give up. But he said that he finally got vaccinated because of my family, and I'll leave it at that. He wouldn't expand further, but we can imagine what might or might not have been said by certain family members to get him to get his butt.
That's good enough. That's good enough. Him saying that he was influenced by his family should be a clear message to everyone else that doesn't have the vaccine yet. Talk to your family. Talk to your family. Talk to other people. Talk to people you trust. Talk to your doctor. Talk to whomever's around that you feel you trust or can trust, and listen to what they have to say. Don't go on the internet to figure it out. Speak to somebody you know something about. If it were me, that's what I would do. Canada's women's soccer team named the Canadian Press Team of the Year after their Olympic gold, Aaron.
This is fantastic to see. 9 years after they won bronze at the London Olympics, and after another controversial semifinal loss to the United States, they finally got there. So I'm glad to see them getting their due.
Well, climate change is real. Drivers urged to use caution after snow blankets BC South Coast.
Yeah, this is, one of those things where you're like, huh? But yeah, from Vancouver Island to Chilliwack woke up to about 25 centimeters of snow in some locations. For those of our American viewers, that's about 10 inches.
Okay, 10. It's 8, but I'll just never mind. Okay, yeah, and it's and in BC, it's not that Canadians in the West don't know how to deal with snow, but people in BC, it's the fact that you don't have the tires. It's the fact that you don't have the experience driving in snow. It can be pretty scary, and making a mistake that you're not aware of or that you can make in the snow, folks. We all know, even for those of us that know what it's like to be on those snowy roads and bridges and such, you lose grip suddenly, and then your life is in the spin of your car's hands. So please be careful out there.
Now, Vancouver police did actually post a rather amusing picture of an individual who is trying to pass off jute twine as a traction device on his car's tires. So,
What?
Yeah, he apparently had looped a bunch of twine around the outside of his
Okay.
tires and tied it through his rim to make it look like he actually had snow chains on his car.
Did it work?
Apparently not. They warned him about it after they towed him out of a ditch.
Oh, okay. So obviously he knows it doesn't work too.
Exactly.
We talked about this story, and in the U.S. there was a truck driver that was going 85 miles an hour carrying a lot of wood. It caught fire. 4 people died. He ended up with 110 years of a sentence. The governor commuted that sentence to 10 years.
Yeah, this was a situation where everything was against the driver, just based on the way that the sentencing laws were set up. They really didn't have a choice. That 110 was basically mandatory. The only way to get it lowered was to have the governor intervene. And this actually came about because some of the families who were involved actually spoke up on his behalf, saying that the penalty and the sentence that he faced was a little too much.
And they know the conditions that the driver was driving in.
Yeah.
And that's that's as I think that's as human a reaction as people can have, and know that compassion matters, and intent matters, right? And it's kind of sad that if his brakes failed, which is what he said, they didn't confirm or deny it. The media, when announcing that, right, or when it was said that he said it in court, nobody proved he didn't try, or nobody proved that he did. I didn't hear that they didn't refer to it as substantiated evidence. But if his brakes failed, it's kind of hard to blame him, except for the fact that he does have some guilt dependent on how fast he was going and how that related to the speed limit.
Well, and there was also they made mention of the fact that apparently he also missed an emergency turnoff, but at that point he might have been going too fast to actually get it.
Yeah. Well, it is what it is. Let's go over to the more entertaining world of entertainment. And
Yay!
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson says nope. Vin Diesel, nope. To Furious 10. The Dees mode, nope. Ain't happening as far as he's concerned. What's the problem here?
Well, there had been rumors of stuff going on backstage, specifically that I think certain members of the franchise have certain things written into their contract where they can't lose fights, and there were barbs traded back and forth about certain people being candy asses, and not doing their own stunts and that sort of thing, and it finally bubbled over and came to a head. Johnson was originally planning and stepping away after Hobbs and Shaw was done. So Dwayne said, I was very surprised by Vin's recent post this past June when Vin and I had actually connected, not over social media. I told him directly and privately that I would not be returning to the franchise. I was firm yet cordial with my words and said that I would always be supportive of the cast and always root for the franchise to be successful, but there was no chance I would return. I privately spoke with my partners at Universal as well, all of whom were very supportive as they understood the problem. Now, he doesn't go on to elucidate about the problem, but I can respect his decision. Apparently, Vin wanted him back for Fast 10.
Yeah, so. And under the terms, it sounds to me that Johnson didn't want to be a part of. So yeah, it's great. Everybody has their line, their line they're willing to cross, and or that bridge too far, right? And so it's been established here. I mean, it's number 10. I mean, I think they might have got it right by now. Isn't that the intention? Unvaccinated Joe Rogan cancels sold out show in Canada. I don't even think I can get into the country.
Oh, this is one of those wah, wah sort of stories. Um, I, I can't say I'm upset. I think there's also a reason why it's sold out, in quotes. Yeah, this is a guy who has advocated treating yourself with uh, colloidal silver, with
Ivermectin.
ivermectin,
Yep.
with sunshine up the butt. You know, it's one of those. No, dude, you're not a health
He
expert. You
has
should
a
really.
huge following, Aaron.
Yeah.
He's
Oh, he
pretty,
has a massive
he
following. You
has
know, for
he has yeah. And they
for
are, you know, they are they do fit a certain mold as followers.
there is a certain way to describe his followers for sure. I think the funny part is his show is supposed to be on 420, and that's been canceled.
Yes. And
Oh darn!
well, that's fine. And for those who don't know what for, never mind. Ted Nugent rails against Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for inducting Patti Smith, Grandmaster Flash, and Madonna. Okay, which one of them doesn't he like?
All three.
All three he doesn't like.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, he says it's denigrating the Hall of Fame that a dance act like Madonna would be included, and Grandmaster
Dance
Flash
act. A
and
dance act.
ABBA and Patti Smith. No, I don't think they belong there at all. And besides, you know what? I don't think I want to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame if they'll have those kind of people in there. So
Now again, now we're talking about somebody with a certain kind of following.
no, he has a certain bent. That's true.
Well, yeah, I guess if anybody gets to decide who enters the Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, might as well be Ted Nugent because you know he's
Sure.
a big star in music.
He also deliberately pooped his own pants to avoid serving his country during the Vietnam War, but you know we don't talk about that.
New Year's Eve parties canceled, moved online in cities across Canada, including Toronto.
This is not really surprising. I mean, you know, they've been trying to get people to avoid going outside and all that sort of fun stuff for this sort of thing. So it's pretty much the only way that you can go. But I've attended, I've seen New Year's Eve parties online. It's not really all that bad. It's not really all that different, other than that the booze is cheaper and you're not cold. So there's that's going for it.
Yeah, and you know you can do social distancing.
Can't really do it outdoors when you're packed in cheek by jowl in Nathan Phillips Square watching, you know, some no-name Canadian act you've never heard of before.
Well, you can do it at home.
Exactly.
Ontario delays start at school, shortens isolation time, limits PCRs on cases as cases climb.
So, don't know if you've been following this. I'm pretty sure you have. School wasn't going to be starting Monday. It's now going to be starting Wednesday. This is while the province deploys 3,000 HEPA filter units. This is in addition to the 70,000 it's already rolled out. Where they've gone, I don't know. But they're providing less than one new HEPA unit per school. There are currently 4,600 schools, both elementary and high school, in Ontario right now. So I'm not sure where all of those units are going, but at least they're adding additional capacity. They are also providing non-fitted N95 masks to staff in schools and daycare, so that's a positive as well.
Yeah, but folks, it's just for another couple of weeks. I'm convinced that in the next couple of weeks things will get better. And again, it doesn't mean behave well. I won't say behave irresponsibly because that definitively isn't definitive. Quebec imposes COVID-19 curfew starting on New Year's Eve. I think it's 10 to 5, if I remember seeing it.
I believe you're correct. This is something that they've tried before. 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. is for an indefinite period of time, according to Francois Legault, when he was speaking with reporters on Thursday. He was very clear in stating that there's a risk that the number of hospitalizations could exceed our capacity. So there are currently 939 COVID-related hospitalizations in Quebec. That's doubled in the past week. So they are trying to do everything they can. He says, I understand that it's an extreme action to be taking because the situation is extreme. So we have to act rapidly.
Respiratory therapist fought on COVID's front lines. The last wave broke him. COVID fatigue is a real thing.
It is. The issue that we're running into here is people don't seem to understand the impact. We did laud healthcare professionals as heroes. We did temporarily boost their pay, but that's gone now, and there are inadequate supports for a lot of them, and they're dealing with this issue. Now, this is specifically, they were talking about a respiratory therapist by the name of Alva Daniels, who unfortunately took his own life because he couldn't deal with the way that things are going. In his words, we can't save them. All we can do is bag them and tag them. And it finally got to the point where, unfortunately, he couldn't take it anymore and took his own life. This is a warning. This is something that definitely needs to be heeded and not just brushed under the rug. It is going to get worse before it gets better. This has been the case with almost every single situation and every single wave we've dealt with.
Yeah, and then we've learned that some people just won't. There are solutions, and not all of us agree that those solutions are the way to go, and that's unfortunate because it extends the problem. Thanks to Eduardo Harari, we've got a list of a bunch of names here, and we got. I see about 11 minutes to do it, so we got 11 minutes to kill here on some of the greatest athletes of 2021. So I've got the greatest athletes, the top 7 here. Here's what I'm going to say. How many of them do you know?
1, 2. That's it. I got 2.
I got 3.
Yeah?
I think you got the third one too. Anthony Zambrano of the Athletics.
Yes. Okay. No, I
got
that
the same one. I know we got.
I think we did.
So what's the point I'm making by saying that? It's putting a list like this together is not easy because who follows everything. Now let me be clear about something here. That doesn't mean these people aren't important. They're as important as anyone else. But when we say these are the best athletes in the world, this is a world news organization that covers all sports everywhere. And in other words, they don't just cover hockey, football, and basketball, right? So they're going to be checking out, talented folks in a myriad of sports. So, congratulations to them. I'll read this group. You can read the next. Lionel Messi, football. Number 1, Caleb Dressel, swimming, United States. Richard Carapaz, cycling, Ecuador. Milan Lopez, Luca Guerrerama, Cuba. Luis Martinez, swimming, Guatemala. Carlos Correa, baseball, Puerto Rico. Anthony Zambrano, athletics, from Colombia. Now we got our best females. How many of these do I know? I just oh my goodness, only 1, no 2. How about you?
Oh, you've got one up on me on that one, Frank. I don't recognize any of them, unfortunately.
Well, Elaine Thompson and Nese Dejomis. The reason for Neze is to see her lift. To see her lift is amazing. But anyway, yeah. So you want to read them?
Sure. We've got Yulimar Rojas from Venezuela. We've got Elaine Thompson Hera from Jamaica. Yocasta Valle, who is a boxer. We've got Sofia Granda, who's a bowler. You've got Yasmin Camacho, who's in athletics from Puerto Rico. Sandra Arena from Colombia, and Nacy Dahomes from Ecuador for weightlifting. Now, I think the one that you were looking at up above number 4 in the men's, Mian Lopez, is Lucha Greco-Romana, which is Greco-Roman wrestling.
Ah, okay.
So now the best teams, I recognize most of those. I don't agree,
Are you
but
sure?
I do.
Are you sure? Football, basketball, baseball. And when they say football, they don't mean the one here in North America.
See, I would have included the gold medal winning Canadian women's team on that, but I understand that this is a South and Central American focused sort of point.
I am inclined to totally agree, and I'm thinking that's what this is. It seems to be more South American, Spanish influence.
No, it definitely appears that way. Also, looking at the best press centers of 2021, the Copa América de Football in Brazil and the World Skating Championships in Colombia, and there were 5 people that decided not to vote on that. So,
yeah. Well, as far as the soccer is concerned, Argentina's a great team. So, the fact that we see 2 football teams, one Brazil, one Argentina, and no Europeans tells you the focus of this newspaper organization or these newspapers. So if there isn't a European soccer team in there, I can pretty much rest assured they're not really caring about European teams. But this is an interesting, it's an interesting look and perspective on sports. On this subject, do you think now with what COVID is doing, are you more prepared for this kind of sports shutdown this time than you were last time? Is there any benefit to have gone through it before? Is that why you can say that you can handle it this time better than some people?
Well, this time around, like this sort of a shutdown where it's due to I call it natural circumstances. Some people would say lab created circumstances. That's a whole different kettle of fish.
Right.
But when it's something like this, I'm more prepared to deal with it than something that is, like let's say Major League Baseball's lockout of the players. Right. There is a difference for me between a play stoppage due to a labor dispute and a play stoppage caused by a global pandemic. I am far more prepared for that sort of thing.
And as far as watching these games, we've gotten to the point where it almost got to be normal. You know what I mean, Aaron? It almost got to be where it wasn't a COVID issue. And the reason I say that, I say it with trepidation, is because it never really did let go, did it? Right?
No.
When the games were going on, we were waiting for that other shoe to drop.
No, we were definitely waiting for it.
Wondering where it would drop. Did it drop like you thought? Suddenly and deeply.
I was expecting that. It was like pulling out the keystone in an arch. All of a sudden, everything just came tumbling down. You kind of expected that sort of thing.
Okay. So it was a Jenga game.
Kind of, sort of, yeah. Like right? Once you pull out one of the supports at the bottom, away it goes.
Yeah, because for me, it was surprising that the variant showed up, that this Omicron variant showed up was surprising to me. Maybe because I just didn't want anything like that. And then when they mentioned that it was in Africa and they were talking about stopping flights to the world, what we learned previously was that usually we find out it's spreading too late. It's after the horse leaves the barn, right? And we close the door and say, there we go. Where are the horses? And essentially that's why I wasn't surprised about it happening, because unfortunately, as much justified criticism science gets, because they do get justified criticism, it's based on situations like this where science just can't, science does not invent a situation. Science takes notes, gathers, numbers, statistics, knowledge, and then a bunch of them get together and then they start diagnosing all the information. And by the time they diagnose it all, they come up with a result. It's still been working. It doesn't stop. Like you said, oh, look, there's an Omicron. What is this? Oh, what is it doing? Let's think about it. While you're thinking about it, it just spread to the whole world. That's how quick this thing was. So I was not in any way surprised the National Hockey League took a pause. In fact, I was not surprised that the Olympics were not going to happen for the hockey team. And I was not surprised that the National Hockey League seemed a little more willing. I think more willing. I'm not saying more willing than necessary, but they didn't fight the idea of canceling games as much as I thought they might. But when they did that, I realized, oh, if they cancel the Olympics, they gain 3 weeks. So they could basically
Yep.
crap the bed for a couple of weeks. And what's going to bail them out is that open schedule that they had nothing scheduled for anyway in February.
So it's like an all-star break after the all-star break.
Or before, right? Or before.
I mean, nothing in this game stoppage or these postponements works against the NHL in any way.
Not yet.
Because it's an Olympic year.
Right.
If it continues to get worse and they don't get it under control, that's when you're going to have additional issues. But yeah, for the time being, this is not something that's going to adversely affect the NHL because they have a built-in buffer.
Let me do an impression of Mark Bettman and company. Mr. Bettman, yes. It appears we might have to cancel the Olympics. Oh, no. Really? No. We can't do that. What are we going to do with the extra 3 weeks? Oh, okay. You mean if we cancel some games, we'll have some games to be played at that time? And we might as well cancel them because nobody can go to the games. That's my impression of the National Hockey League. And I think that's how it worked out. It was a paint by numbers, Aaron. It was a total paint by numbers. Soon as they knew that this was happening and they were going to have to cancel games, there's no way that they were going to go to the Olympics. And because it all happened around Christmas, the players didn't want to play anyway. So they had a willing participant in the NHLPA.
Yeah, and I think the NHLPA looks at this as an opportunity for them to try to make inroads and get a little positive press on their side for a change, saying, hey, we were looking out for the security of our players by not going to the Olympics. And what do you know? Because we also agreed to pause the season for an extra little bit, we're not actually losing any of our playing time. Our schedule's going to pick up right where it left off after the Olympic break is done, and we're set.
And don't forget, Aaron, the people not in the stands for the games means the players. There's money in escrow, which the players they don't get. The owners are going to get that money that's in escrow, which is money that in the event the projected amount of money that is made by hockey for some reason goes, then that extra little money that the players were going to get, it all of a sudden becomes part of everybody's money. And this is something that, they knew they weren't going to keep this money. And if they don't go to the Olympics, right, even the players, they have to choose between having the games played that are being delayed, which have a financial reward to them as a group, not the individuals that get to go to the Olympics who gain the satisfaction of going to the Olympics. And admittedly, a lot of players get time off, which is great, right? But the bottom line is financially, all this stuff, folks, it all makes sense. It makes sense that they don't go to the Olympics. It makes sense that they take this pause at Christmas time because COVID has said nobody in the stands, and the league wants the tickets sold. Don't kid yourself. The Toronto Maple Leafs are very kind to their players, very considerate. They're a great, thoughtful organization. But if they can do that and also get the money that they were planning on getting, guess what they're going to do? They're going to fit that 3-week schedule. It's going to have hockey games in it. And you and I, Aaron, will talk about what those games are all about. And that, I think, is the key, bud.
Definitely. It's just keeping the chin up until we get there, and it's going to happen.
Yeah, and you know what? Spend more time with your family. Play with the boxes that your presents came in more, a few more days, and then we'll call it a day, maybe. Or we'll call it, hey, it's Christmas. Why not enjoy it? It's family time.
Well, family first, man.
You got it. Hey, Aaron, Happy New Year, buddy.
Oh, happy New Year to you too, Frank.
Are you going to be awake for it?
I'm hoping so. I'm going to go for a little nap after I get done here.
I'm hoping to be awake for it, but apparently there's a bottle of champagne waiting,
Oh goodness. Well,
and a big bottle, liter and a quarter of white wine.
well, you enjoy that.
Well,
I've got myself a little cab sauv and a few beers to go through. We've got a little trivia plan for tonight, so it'll be fun.
okay, today's trivia question: which of Aaron or Frank are awake for New Year's Eve? We'll find out on our next show. For Aaron William Freeland, I'm Candid Frank Stanishi. Thank you for watching Candid Frank live on Aaron on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For Candid Frank Live, other news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, please check out spanglishworld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Ciao for now.